Now, Second Life, the 3D place where you can interact online, is often seen through a specific viewer rather than on your browser. And there's been more than one to choose from in the past, but the most popular viewer at the moment, Emerald, has been removed from Second Life's recommended list. Now, Wagner James Au is our man in 3D places on the internet, and he's also a tech writer in San Francisco. He explained to me what's afoot in the Emerald cities.
Emerald is a third-party viewer for Second Life, and what that means is that you can use it to log into Second Life and get all of the experience with some additions with that software, and it's not created by the company that made Second Life, which is called Linden Lab. In 2007, at the height of Second Life's kind of hype wave, the company did something very cool. They open sourced the software for the viewer. Now, the viewer is the software that's used to display Second Life. Second Life is a distributed virtual world on a giant server grid, and basically the viewer is equivalent to a web browser, except here you're browsing 3D content. They said, okay, anyone can develop new viewers, and they can improve it, and they can add new features, and that's great. So there's been a giant explosion of open source development around the viewers, and there's a bunch of viewers. And Emerald, very rapidly, beginning last year, started getting very, very popular, partly because one of the big features that they offered was a physically represented bouncing breasts on avatars.
Surely that can't be the only thing. I mean, there's bound to be Second Life users who aren't so surprised, I guess, by those particular effects of physics.
Actually, what was happening at the same time was Linden Lab spent millions of dollars developing a new version of their own proprietary software viewer, and they called it Viewer 2. The whole idea was to make Second Life easier for average people to use. And the established user base hated it, in great part because all of the settings were put everywhere in different places, and they'd gotten used to all the weird things about the original Second Life viewer, and then those things were put in all these different other places. And the user interface was, I thought it was quite nice. It's just that the established folks, that's not what they wanted in great part, so they started looking for alternate viewers, and so a lot of them landed on Emerald, so that kept growing. And Emerald, because there's so many developers working on it, this is the whole open source effect, they improved the functionality and also the performance. So it was displaying faster than the official Second Life viewer. It was displaying content and had extra features, like you could actually see who was around you with sort of a radar widget. So in many ways, it was superior to the company's official product. It's just that the people behind it, no one knows who they are, and there's always been this lingering suspicion that some of them are reformed or not reformed hackers.
Hackers in the bad sense.
Yeah, crackers, I guess you'd say, or black hat types. The thing is, and I've been following it for quite a while, is the accusations would come from unknown sources as well. So, you would have these people show up literally in my blog on the comment threads and say, well, this guy is a hacker, and it's all these very strange Second Life names. And the people making the accusations were also Second Life avatar names. And so it was sort of this contentious issue that was extremely hard to follow.
Now it seems that Linden has decided not to list Emerald as an authorized viewer. Why, and what does that mean?
Because there's so many third-party viewers for Second Life, the company Linden Lab created a third-party viewer registry where you could get your viewer listed if you agree to abide by certain conditions. And so, kind of the common sense ones of don't use this for hacking and so on. So Emerald was actually listed on it for quite a while. And then what happened is apparently a denial of service attack on a rival developer. So what happened is anyone who launched the Emerald viewer would suddenly also hit the website of this rival developer. And because you have hundreds of thousands of people using the Emerald software, basically they were all sort of implicated in a denial of service attack hitting this guy's website. And so that's when Linden Lab freaked out and said, no, this is not going to happen. And so they delisted them.
Well, this seems to leave Linden with a problem, because if so many Second Life users turn to Emerald, where will they go now? And indeed, is it not sort of damaging, I guess, to raise the bar, to make people use something that they're not accustomed to or that they don't like to get involved?
They've just delisted it right now, but you can still use Emerald. There's been a lot of talk about what people should use. In fact, I have a survey on my blog right now. And again, the ironic thing is overwhelmingly the preference is another third-party viewer, not Second Life's own software.
Of course, you cover other virtual worlds. Are there other companies running virtual spaces that can learn from this kind of OS lesson if they were thinking of going open source?
Yeah, I think the issue is really this is sort of open source without a Linus Torvalds at the head of it. I mean, Linux is sort of what powers the internet. It powers the internet, the servers that run the internet for the most part. And there's a large community of open source developers who improve Linux constantly. But for the longest time, there's the head guy, Linus Torvalds, and we know it's this crazy Finnish guy, and he's in California, and he's an actual known quantity. With Second Life, you have this open source community and the power of the open source community, but there's all these unknown people that are behind it. And because most people are not programmers, they can't check the code, because that's kind of always been the argument is, well, you can look at the code and see it's not malicious, but how do I know if I'm not a programmer whether it's valid or not? And so, yeah, I think this is sort of where we see the limits of the whole concept of Second Life avatar identity. Theory was, Philip Rosedale, the founder, his idea was, well, if you create a Second Life avatar and you want to be established in the community, you're going to have the same constraints that you do in the real world. You're going to want to be building a good reputation and so on. It's become so easy to create other alternative Second Life accounts. You can kind of have one that's legitimate and then others that are not as legitimate and so on. So, yeah, I think that's been the problem in this case.
Well, it certainly seems like a story that's going to open up and progress, and we can all follow it on your blog, of course. Where's best to find you?
That's New World Notes. It's nwn.blogs.com, and yes, I'm sure there'll be much more developments.
Now, Linden Labs, the makers of Second Life, have updated their blog to acknowledge the changes. They say, we discovered a denial of service attack that was being served through the widely distributed Emerald third-party viewer. This is in direct violation of our third-party viewer policy. We have removed Emerald from the list of third-party viewers and are now in touch with the Emerald team to discuss what can happen next. We did this to do our best to protect the safety and security of Second Life users. We will not tolerate a viewer that includes malicious code, nor will we tolerate development teams with a history of violating users' trust or disrupting their lives. And you can read the rest of their statement on the company blog.